So anyway, once in a while you run across a good joke. I actually heard a really funny joke when I was a little kid working in the mountains. I'm going to tell you the joke. A guy walks into a grocery store. He says, I want a half a pound of butter, and I want... And he looks and he sees shelves loaded with boxes of salt. 3 tiers of boxes, shelves filled with salt, boxes of salt. So he says, look, I'm not, to the grocery guy, I don't mean to pry, but do you sell a lot of salt? And the guy, me, if I'll sell a box of salt a month, it's a miracle. But the guy that sells me salt, boy, can he sell salt. That was really, I never forgot that. That was really a funny joke. Anyway, I'm going to tell you a little about Blazing Saddles, how it came to be. You'll have to forgive me. I'm a little under the weather. I'm at the better end of a cold, but if I spit on anybody down, I'm sorry. You're a very good-looking audience, really. I hope the kids you brought here today have heard the word shit, because I'm going to say it. I'm so sorry about that. Anyway, we'll start at the beginning. How did Blazing Saddles, how did this incredible, insane, miraculous movie come to be and be allowed to be? Anyway, I had done 2 movies, right?
That's true.
That's Kevin Salter. Kevin Salter is the best friend of my son, Max Brooks. They're buddies. My son, Max Brooks, zombie survival guy. World War Z. I have a lot of kids, but he's one of the ones that I don't have to give money to. As a matter of fact, on occasion, every Saturday night, I'll go to my son Max and say, Max, I want to go to the movies and go to an ice cream parlor. What do you got a little change left? He gives me $10. He's a good kid. So anyway, why and how this miraculous movie got made. I made my first movie was truly a miracle. I got Gene Wilder, God bless him, he's Gene Wilder, timid, quiet, sweet, shy, incredibly talented. But he was like Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. He'd be very, no, sure, whatever. Want me to stay? Yeah, no, I'll sit with this mouse in the corner, I'm fine, you know. And every once in a while, I want everything! So he would be like Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. And he was so talented, anytime I cast him as a character in anything, my only directions were louder, softer. That's how good he was. Anyway, first movie, the producers, 0. We shot it in 8 weeks, 5 days a week, $941,000, that's what it cost to make. And according to the studio, it's not even yet. That's movies. So anyway, I got about $25,000, which in those days was a lot of money to write and direct it. So I then decided to do a movie. My friend Julie Green loved Ilfin Petrov, 2 Russian writers. They had written a novel called The Little Golden Calf, and they wrote about the Russian Revolution. Very funny, interesting guys. Then they wrote another novel called The 12 Chairs, and I made that. I went to Yugoslavia with Don DeLuise. he would get on trolley cars and he'd say, "Everybody, I'm Dom DeLuise, I'm here in Yugoslavia, let's hear it." I didn't understand a word of it. But he really was the funniest man that ever lived, Dom DeLuise. So anyway, Frank Langella, Dom DeLuise, Ron Moody, we made this remarkable movie. It didn't cost a lot, and also it didn't make a lot of money. But I was very proud of it, really. It was a terrific movie. So there I am, married, a baby, Max on the way. I've made 2 pictures, and I'm living off, God bless my wife, who was working. She was on Broadway and Bancroft. She encouraged me, you know, I could have gotten jobs in television. She said, no, stay with the movies, you could. But I really had no money. So she was paying the rent. And we'd go to Chinese restaurants. You could eat for $12. You could stuff yourself 2 people. So usually we'd have a meal, it would be $10 or $12. She'd slip me the money under the table so I'd look like the man paid. So I would take the money, and one time she gave me a 10 and a 5, and I just threw it all on the table and said, "That's your tip," and she slapped me. She said, "With my money, you're such a big tipper." So anyway, she was pregnant with me. I needed some money. And I'm walking down the 57th Street in New York, and it had just rained, and there were little rivulets of water by the curb. We're looking, and I hear somebody behind me say, "Hi, Mel, looking for change?" Very embarrassing. And it's the late, great David Begelman, who was accused of many things, and correctly so. He was a rogue, but the most wonderful man that ever lived. He said, "I got something on my desk I want you to read, and I want you to see it." And I said, "David, I only write and direct. I'm an auteur. I only write and direct movies that come out of my own brain. I don't know no other. You know, that's the way I work." He said, I don't know. He said, "If you do this, I think I could get $100,000. I said, "I just changed my mind. Let me just change my brain." So anyway, I went back to the office with him. By the way, later he became president of Columbia Pictures for one reason. I remember going into his office the first day. He said, "I want you to see my new office." So I'm just diverting for a minute. I went to his new office at Columbia. The rug was red, the couch was red, the desk was red, the ceiling was light red, everything was, drapes were red, everything was red. I said, "David, how did this office get to be so red?" He said, "I gave the decorator carte rouge." David Begelman, genius. So anyway, I go to his office and I look at 20 page précis, an outline by Andrew Bergman, and it's called Tex X, which was a good title. We couldn't use it with Tex X. And there was very simply the outline of Blazing Saddles, the black sheriff that comes to the West, and all the problems therein, you know. And I said, "Listen, get me Andy on the phone." So I talked to Andy, we met for dinner. I said, "Andy, this is a good idea." I said, "You've jumped here, you've gone wrong here. But I think this could be a movie. You want to, you know, I'm the only director who ever works with the original writer. I mean, the original writer is persona non grata. You never want to see him. He's a pain in the ass. He's always got thoughts about me. So anyway, I met with Andy. And then I said, "Andy, we need a black guy. Because you use the N-word. it's all through the script, the N-word, the N-word. No, you can't do that. You can't say that. I said, I don't know, we need a black guy. So I said, look, I got a friend, and man, did I have a friend. Maybe the best stand-up comic that ever lived, Richard Pryor. Richard was not a writer, he was a stand-up guy, but he was a very creative, incredibly creative guy. And absolutely sugar, just crazy. So I called him, I told him about it, and I said, I can get you $5,000 or $10,000. I mean, join us, be one of the writers. Richard, all you have to do is, like on page 7, 23, 41, just, can we say, yes, you can use the, just say yes. I want it blessed by you. It turns out that Richard Pryor wrote all of Mongo. He loved Mongo. Mongo, only game, only porn and game of life. I mean, that's Richard, brilliant guy. I once did him dirty. He was sick or he was screwing around. I don't know. He was a very crazy guy. He said, I can't, I'm working the bitter end. And we used to work the Vanguard, the bitter end, little clubs in New York. He said, I'm working the bitter end on Wednesday night, and I'm going to be busy. I'm going to be sick. So he probably had 3 girls somewhere. So I said, okay. He said, got to do my act. I said, okay. You got to do my act. He kept yelling, you got to do my act. So that stayed in my head. It was a little crazy. I had my act. He meant, sub for me. Go on stage and do an hour, like, and say, sorry, Richard isn't here. I was pretty well known in the village. But I thought, do my act. So I got on stage and I said, like every black kid, I had a very big, tough big. I did this whole act. I said, my grandmother had this little cat house in Cincinnati. He used to see naked girls and get very excited. I just did his act. Well, the audience began to get it. After a while, they were hysterical. I got back to him. By the end of the night, he was on stage saying, no, he's not me. I love Richard so much. Anyway, here we are. We got Richard, and then every day I used to eat in a place in New York, I don't know if they had them in Boston, called Chock full of Nuts. And they had chock full of nuts coffee, and usually chopped egg sandwiches, chopped chicken, chopped corned beef. I mean, everything was like chopped sandwiches. And I'd be having a chopped sandwich and their good coffee. And there was a kid who kept pulling on my leg, and he kept saying, my name is Norman Steinberg. I'm a lawyer. I passed the bar. I don't want to be a lawyer. I hate lawyers. I don't want to be with them. They're terrible people. I want to be in comedy. I love you and I love Get Smart. I love your comedy. And I said, all right. He kept annoying me. He seemed pretty smart. I said, all right, I'll give you a break. I said, write an outline for something for Get Smart, give it to Lenny Stern. If he likes it, I'll give you a shot at writing with us. So he said, I don't write alone, I write with Alan Huger. I said, who's Alan Huger? He said, he's a dentist, he doesn't want to be a dentist. so we got him. Anyway, they both worked out, Norman Steinberg, 2 funny guys, and they joined the staff. It was me and Andrew Bergman and Richard Pryor and Steinberg and Alan Huger. And we wrote this. And I said, the first meeting, I said, write anything you want. Write as crazy as you want. First of all, this movie will never be made. And secondly, if it's made, we'll all be arrested. So we worked, we wrote diligently, and I had one big problem. I always thought that Richard was going to be the black sheriff. He's perfect. So I'm going to get back to you. I am going to sit down. We're going to talk. We're going to be together later. Just let me finish this. So we had a big fight. They said that we can't get insurance. Well, it's true. He's been arrested for drugs, and he's been there, and we can't get insurance. And without insurance, Warner Brothers can't. So I said that to Richard, and he said, "All right, never mind. We'll find somebody. You know, you just keep paying me. Get paying him for writing." He was happy. We'd all break for lunch, I remember, and we'd have, chopped egg salad, lox on a bagel. This is a New York lunch. And Richard would say, Remy Martin. That was the French brandy he'd have every day. So anyway, we finished the script and we started casting and finding the right guy to be Black Bart, to be our sheriff. We literally saw 60, 70 guys. Nobody clicked. And then this guy came from Broadway. He was in a Broadway play. His name was Cleavon Little. Richard, and he just read the jail scene, and Richard and I said, oh, that's the guy. He had class. He was gorgeous. He was really good looking. And Richard said to me, listen, look. He says, look at me, I'm good looking, but I could be Cuban. He said, my mustache and my ways, I could be Cuban. He said, that guy's black, he's gonna scare the shit out of me. And it's true, he did scare the shit out of that town. And we hired this beautiful, eloquent guy, in his 40s, Cleavon Little, I loved him. Anyway, then we needed somebody to be Lily Marlena. We needed somebody to be Lily von Stuck, right? So, I auditioned this lovely girl, beautiful girl, who could sing. She really could sing, and so she auditioned. Madeline Kahn comes in and sings, I'm Tired. I said, my God, she's beautiful, she's perfect. So at the end of it, I said, Madeline, no offense, but could you raise your skirt? She said, what? I said, I want to look at your legs. You've got to straddle a chair. This is like Destiny Rides Again. We're making fun of Marlene Dietrich. We need to see your legs. If the legs don't work, then the part don't work. So she said, oh, all right. She said, oh, it's going to be one of those kinds of auditions. No, I'm happily married. No. So she straddles the chair, and her legs are the most beautiful legs I've ever seen in my life. And I said, okay, you got the part. And she leaves. And when she leaves, I said to myself, why couldn't it be one of those auditions? She was so good. Anyway, I loved her. Okay, that's some of the casting. But now here comes the tricky part. I wanted in Blazing Saddles, the Waco Kid, to be a real tough, weather-beaten Western guy who was down on his luck, and we could see it like John Wayne. So I went to John Wayne, who was having lunch at Warner Brothers. I went up to him. He had seen the producers. So he said to me, you're great. What are you doing? We talked. And I said, I want you to read this script. There's a major part in it for the Waco Kid I'd like you to read. So he said, okay, you got it, Mel. I'll read it tonight. Meet you right back here, same time tomorrow. Same time tomorrow, come back. He said, this script is so dirty. So my fans have never let me do that. He says, but I'll be the first one online to pay to get in to see it. It was so sweet. John Wayne. So anyway, I was still looking for a guy who was like a character, who was weather-beaten, who was an alcoholic. And Gig Young was an alcoholic who had just won the Academy Award for They Shoot Horses, Don't They? Played an alcoholic, it was great. So I called his agent manager. I said, unfortunately, Gig was an alcoholic, but that's over. That's history. Alcoholic, history, but he can play an alcoholic, but it's history, but he can play an alcoholic. I said, this guy, there's just a faint aroma of bullshit here. I said, all right. So I met him, and he read the part in my office. It was pretty good. And he seemed, slightly, his hand shook a little bit. Okay. I think he could do it. He could give the role, textures. It wouldn't just be a silly picture. It would be a picture with a little bit of something to say, a little texture. So, Gig Young, first day of shooting, Cleavon Little walks into the jail. Gig Young is hanging upside down in the cell, and the line goes like this, are we awake? And the Waco kid's supposed to say, I don't know, are we black? Never saw a black shirt. Okay, action! Okay, hi there, are we awake? I don't know. Are we black? Are we black? Are we black? And I turned to my assistant director and said, we're so lucky. Look at the reality of this guy. Look at, he's playing an alcoholic beautifully. Look at him. Blah, blah, are we black? Are we black? Are we black? And green stuff flew out of his mouth. I said, too much, too much, too much. So we had to get an ambulance and we took him away. He wasn't quite finished being an alcoholic. So I called my best friend, Gene Wilder in New York. I told him with tears in my eyes what happened. I said, Gene, could you come out here and play that part for me? He said, I'll be on the next plane. He came out. That was Friday. He came out on Saturday. Tried on the suit, tried on the guns, found a horse. Monday morning, he was ready to shoot. And he came in, Cleavon Little walks in and says, are we awake? And he says, I don't know, are we black? That was Gene, and boom, from that moment on, that picture worked. So that was...
You also, you made an appearance in that movie. Had you always been planning on playing Governor Lepetame, or?
I was always Governor Lepetame. Nobody could play. Who could walk around with a big GOV on his back? It had to be me. It had to be me.
And how did you find the late, great Harvey Korman?
Ann Backup found Harvey Korman on the Carol Burnett show. They were doing the Andrews sisters. Patty Laverne. And of course, he was the best of the Andrews sisters. So I asked him, to come in and read, and he was just perfect. And when we were doing, he prided himself on never breaking up in a movie. On TV, he did a lot, but never. We were doing, Harvey and I were doing a movie called History of the World. And Harvey was the Count de Monet. I would call him the Count de Money. He'd say, Monet, Monet, Monet. I'd say, I'm the king. If I say count the money, it's money. So he prided himself on never breaking up. So we were in a scene where I have a gun and I'm doing some target practice with real life people. And I say, pull. And they pull and a peasant goes flying through the air. I shoot him. And Harvey turns away and sees my double, who was with a bucket, allowing the aristocracy to pee in the bucket. I played that part too. So, Harvey, count the money, turns to me and says, Your Majesty, Your Majesty, you look like the piss boy.
You look like a
Harvey
fucking
never ever broke up, but I threw this at him and he never expected it. He said, you look like the piss boy. And I said, oh yeah? And you look like a bucket of shit. He collapsed. He was on the ground. We had to shoot him 3 times before we But Harvey was great. Harvey had lived a lot. Harvey had lived that incredible scene in Blazing Saddles where he says, if I could get to so-and-so and bring them, they'd leave in droves. And perhaps I could find someone who could chase them and the railroad could go right. But why am I telling you all that? I mean, that was his ad lib. It was just worth a fortune. Harvey was the best. Anybody else?
Well, you could talk about Slim Pickens, who is so...
Slim did an ad lib that was amazing. He's Harvey Korman. He's Harvey Korman, who's, this incredible, intellectual, wild man. And Harvey's in the world, and he's saying, my mind is flooded with a dilution of cosmic beams, floating through an amazing metamorphosis of self. And Slim Pickens waits a minute and says, ditto. And Harvey was genuinely shocked. And he said, he had like, ditto, you redneck shithead. I mean, I really had such great people. And then he said, and I never told him to use my name, and he said to Dom DeLuise, Dom said, this is a closed set. I mean, that was when he was doing the French Mistake. That was insane. And Slim Pickens says, piss on you, I'm working for Mel Brooks. And then Dom says, not in the face. He hits him in the belly and Dom says, thank you. Dom was amazing. He just lifted everything. He lifted the movie. So good. I mean, really, as a director, all I had to do was cast. I found the right people, and my job was not to get in the way. My job was just to let them do their stuff, and just give them some little formats, physical formats, and talent is talent. The secret of becoming a great director is casting, really. You got a great cast, step back. Okay, you got questions?
I do.
So far, so good. You're getting a good show. I sound like Donald Trump. You're getting a good show. It's the truth. It's all.
I'd like to go off on
Silly.
That's it. That's what you'll hear. Silly.
I imagine you write the movie, you make the movie, you direct the movie. At some point, you have to take that movie back to Warner Brothers and you have to show them what you wrote.
It's true.
Yeah. What was the reaction, the initial reaction when you showed it to the...
First of all, when I was making it, I went up to John Calley's office. And I said, John, we're doing a lot of crazy things in this movie. I said, can we really punch the shit out of a little old lady? A little old lady with a bonnet and nothing, He said, Mel, I'll never forget, he said, Mel, if you go up to the bell, ring it. And I've done that all my life. And there was another guy. We had a screening, a rough cut screening of Blazing Saddles at the Afghan Embassy Theater somewhere on Wilshire Boulevard. And he was running all of Warner Brothers, not only the movie division like John Kelly, but the music and whatever distribution, whatever Warner Brothers consisted of.
She's wrong.
And he was terrible. It was awful. He shall be nameless. Ted Ashley. That was the guy. So we had the screening, and there's the farting scene, and what happened? The audience loved it. It was raucous and riotous, almost as good as this audience watching it tonight. You guys were really, seriously. I listened backstage. You were the best audience in the world. Either you're smart or you're dumb. I don't know. But you got everything. You got all the nuances, and you really reveled in it. It was so great. But anyway, he grabbed me by the collar, and he threw me in the manager's office. He threw a legal pad at me and gave me a pencil. He said, "Okay, no farting." I said, "Farting out." He said, "No punching a horse." "No, you can't punch a horse." "No N-words. You can't use the N. You can't say no, out. I mean, he gave me about 22 things to write. I would have had like an 11-minute movie. So anyway, after he left, I crumpled up Callie was with me. I crumpled up all his notes and I threw them in a wastebasket. And Callie said, 2 points, well done. You know? And he said, let's write it out. Let's take a chance. So he said he played it in 3 cities, and it got better and better. And that summer, most of the Warner Brothers bookings were not good. They didn't have a big summer picture. So they all asked for Blazing Saddles, and it went through the roof. It was the biggest movie of 1974. It all worked. And they called me yesterday and they said, "We're almost even."
You mentioned Ted Ashley, and you mentioned he's asking you to cut all the stuff from the movie. It's hard to believe, but did you cut anything from this movie? Was there something that was too far even for you?
I'm so ashamed to tell you, I really am ashamed. There was one scene that even the king of smut, even as dirty as I am, I said, we can't, that has to go. We have to cut that. And a few people in the editing room begged me, no, it's so funny. I said, no. Funny is not the measure. It's too dirty. Kids will be watching it. We have to cut it. So I did cut part of a scene from the movie.
Are you going to tell us what it was?
Hold your ears. If you have children there, you hold their ears. So anyway, it's a scene. It's a scene in which Madeline Kahn invites the black sheriff into her dressing room and says, "Loosen your bullets, make yourself at home." And she says, I'm going to change. She comes out, she's changed into a beautiful, rather rakish outfit. She blows out all the candles, all the lights. They're in the dark. And you hear them snuggling up. And she says, I can't believe I really shot this, but I did. She says, Sheriff, is it true? Is it true? Is it true what they say about your people, how your built, how big, how beautiful. Is it true? It's true. It's true. It's true. And Cleavon says, I hate to disillusion you, Miss Vansta, but you're sucking on my arm. I should have left it. Don't tell anybody now. Don't tell anybody you heard it from me. Mustn't say a word. This is entre nous. It's between us.
I don't even know what to ask you after that.
Nothing will be as dirty as that. So you can relax.
I do want to mention the music, because the music, John Morris's score is so beautiful. It's so authentically Western.
Yes.
And you also, you wrote a great Western theme song.
Yeah, we did it together. I wrote the lyrics and the middle part, and he wrote the theme. But he used that theme. John Morris saved my ass in so many pictures. Young Frankenstein, his theme for just flat out genius. And he was such a beautiful composer and such a lovely guy, and so easy to work with. And anyway, he suggested, why don't we get Frankie Lane to sing the title song? I mean, we're being so, with our titles, so Western, yellow and red, and usually, it was the gunfight at OK Corral. He does gunfight at OK Corral. He does 310 to Yuma. Frankie Lane sings all of these with a twang and with a high-pitched crazy. I mean, it's authentic. It's authentic if it's sung by Frankie Lane. So I got Frankie Lane. I asked him to come. I asked him to look at the music. I gave him a rehearsal pianist in another room for a couple of hours. He came back. He said, ready to go. And he was ready. One take. He rode a blazing saddle. He wore a badge, his job to offer battle to bad man near and far. He conquered fear and he conquered hate. He made his blazing saddle. Now listen to this. He's singing this. He made his blazing saddle a torch to light the way. So I figured he's certainly going to say, what a satire, what a fun. And he comes to me with tears in his eyes. He says, it's a beautiful song. And I said, yeah. I said to him, a torch. Made his blazing saddle a torch to light the way, sitting with the flame. All right, but he did it, and he gave it everything, and God bless him. We didn't even pay him enough for that. Anyway, that was the Frankie Lane saga. That was the saga.
I would be remiss if I didn't ask you about the fart scene.
Conquer fear to conquer it. Turn dark night into day.
You got it. You have the cinematic distinction of being the very first person to put farts in a movie. No farts Yes. A rump. You got a rump out of that guy. That's good. How did that come about, and how dare I ask?
Nobody farted. We were in the editing room with soap and water in tubs, and we did. Under the arms, you can make perfect farts. Soap and water. We did a lot. We did 110. I only used about 12. But I will admit something that nobody knows. I never told any audience. You're the only audience. On any and all of the high farts, Any of it? That's me. I can't say I'm proud of it, but I'm not ashamed either. If something works, it works, you know. This is a good crowd. I'm glad you guys came out. Well, you know what makes me tear up a little bit? Today, a husband and a wife are in a room. She says, you know my favorite movie, let's play Blazing Saddles. And they play it. You know, there's two people in the room, and he says, pause it, honey, I have to pee. He leaves, he comes back. I mean, two people today, because of television, and now they're like 14-year-old kids are watching Blazing Saddles on an iPhone, the whole movie, you know, all by themselves, alone. So this is such a thrill. It's so rich for me. It's so to have thousands of people together enjoying. It's what movies were meant to be. That's what movies were meant to be.
And audience, I mean, they really did find this movie and they embraced it. And theater owners did. I know that it was the theater owners who actually had heard about the movie because of Roger Ebert's review in the Chicago, which was one of the original three.
Roger Ebert, right here from the Chicago Sun-Times, he was my greatest supporter, right from the producers, and I love that guy. And he, I'm sorry we lost him, but he was a wonderful critic, great critic, and he didn't suffer fools. He was wonderful.
Yeah, and so then the theater owners actually, based on that review, were asking Warner Brothers to get this movie in, and that's really, they'd only made originally 13 prints of this film. That's how low the expectations were for Blazing Saddles.
That's their faith in it.
But it ended up being a huge hit, and for the first time in your life, I mean, you'd been a depression kid, you grew up in poverty, you had some real money.
Yeah, for the first time, I got some money. But you know, shortly after the picture, I ran into, I forget where I was. I think I was in San Francisco or something to do something, and Count Basie's band was there playing. And I went up to him, and he said, that was a good gig, I like doing that. I get a lot of good shout outs from that movie. And you know, their April in Paris, they played it right on the desk. It's the first time, instead of background music, it was foreground music. You know, and Cleavon was thrilled, Count Basie and the guys were thrilled. And, I mean, the way that rendition of wah, da da da, wah, I mean, incredible. So there's a lot of little moments in it that you can see the picture and find, you know, you can find moments. And when you see Lily Von Stuck and Cleavon Little in her dressing room in the dark, now you got another thing to imagine. Right. So anyway, I made some money.
Yeah, I wanted to ask you, what was there anything you did?
For the first time, prior to the
Special,
movies,
yeah.
the money came in. So my mother and my Aunt Sadie were together, and they wanted to move to Miami Beach, so I moved them down there. And they moved to a place called Hallandale or Hollywood, Hollywood, Florida. And I said, where are you living? And she said, right on the beach. We have a beautiful apartment, a 2-bedroom apartment in the Presidential. So I said, the Presidential what? It's got to modify something, Mom. It's got to modify. Presidential arms suite, presidential apartments. She said, no, just the Presidential. Well, she was right. I came down there and it just said the Presidential. So I went up, it's beautiful. They could see the ocean, you know. Sadie and my mother, I've never been happier. And they had a lot of cookies. I said, Mom, there's a ton of cookies and look all those cups. I said, it's just me and Ann. And what? She said, no, it's 4 o'clock. I said, oh, you have tea at 4 o'clock? She said, no, they come by to see your awards. The building used to come by to see, you know, and Ann chipped in a few awards, you know, everything on the TV set, you know. So it was wonderful. And then my mother and Sadie wanted to go to a very special Chinese restaurant in Miami Beach. So it's a causeway. So I had rented a car. So I rented a car and had to do something with Max. I said, I'll drive him, I'll take him to dinner. So I get in the car. I hired a Lincoln, got in the car, I'm on the causeway, driving from Miami to Miami Beach. You can't get off, it's water on both, there's no way to park. Car, they come this way, they go that way. There's no sides, it's water, it's called a causeway. Sadie tells Mama a joke, my mother collapses and falls off into the well. They're both screaming with laughter. They remembered making a haircut for me when I was a kid. And they're screaming, I can't stop the car and straighten them up, I can't. I gotta keep driving. As I drive, I finish the causeway. I'm finally in Miami Beach. I park, I straighten them up, I clean them up, I brush them off. Take them out of the car, take them into the Chinese restaurant. I say, I'll be right with you, I gotta lock up the car. I go back to lock up the car. Now I have rented a nice black Lincoln town car to drive my mother and Sadie around. So I get to my car, and there's a guy there with a chauffeur's cap, with the same car right next to my car. I have no idea what he's talking about. He says, who you got? I'm going to say, what, Katie and Sadie. You know? What am I going to tell him? So I put it together. I figured he figures he's a driver. He's taking somebody. I'm a driver. I got a same car. So I say, Mel Brooks. He says, a good tipper. I say, the best. The good old days. I remember when I was a kid, I was working. It's sad and beautiful. I was a kid and I finally got a job after the war for Sid Caesar. He gave me $50 a week. And he's doing bits and he gets this job called the Show of Shows.
Yeah.
And at that time, my brother Irving was the big earner in the family. He made $35, $38 a week, you know. So I'm working for Sid Caesar, and I'm getting, on the Show of Shows, $250 each show, 40 shows. So, I mean, it's a fortune. So I called my brothers, I called Bernie, and I called Lenny, and I called Irving. And it was a great guy. I said, okay, you don't have to contribute to Mom's household anymore. I'm taking over. From here on in, you know, as long as I'm working, I'll handle their problems, their rent, whatever, you know. And we had a party. It was wonderful. It was like, the only thing compared to it would be a book by Morselot called Act One, in which he writes about going out of the brown neighborhood into Manhattan. So it was like that. It was beautiful. I'm telling you things I never told anybody because you're a good audience and you pay me. Okay.
What were you like as a kid? I mean, did you make things difficult for your mother? I mean, she was the single mother, basically, with 4 boys.
One night, one day, I did make trouble. I used to make a lot of trouble, but not a lot. A little bit of trouble every day. First of all, my mother, I never wanted to come up for lunch because I wanted to play with Benji, with Murray. I wanted to play. Izzy, Benji, Murray. We ran like maniacs. So my mother used to put a Kaiser roll, cut in half, filled with butter, filled with a whole tomato, salt and pepper, smash it together, put it into a paper bag, throw it out the window. And I was always good. I'd always catch it up. One day, I missed flat. It was wet. Anyway, I fished around, put it on the curb. I got pieces of the sandwich. I began to cry. It was the greatest thing I ever ate in my life. My mother had created a pizza from, So every day, my mother would say, "What's the matter with you? Good athlete. How come you keep missing?" I said, "I don't know." Oh, that was a great memory. But one day, Izzy, Bernie, Murray, we all went. We never called it stealing, we'd say taking. We'd go to the Woolworth, the 5 and 10, and if there was a stray yo-yo, or a whistle, now one day, they were easy. They were easy, yo-yos. I saw Roy Rogers' silver-plated, pearl-handled revolver. You never saw anything so beautiful. And I'm 9 years old, and I gotta have it, but there's no way to. It's big. There's a lot of getting and putting, and But anyway, I had to have it. Put my coat over, and as I'm leaving the store, I feel my neck is grabbed. But the store manager says, "I saw it. You're coming with me, coming to my office. I'm calling the police. I'm fed up with you kids stealing every day. I'm going to call your mother, and you're going to go to jail." Oh my God. So I'm ready. He's taking me to his office. "Please don't. I never did this before." He said, "You did it every day." And I'm walking, he's got me almost to his office, and I pull out the gun and I say, "Get back, I'll blow your head off." He jumped back, and I ran out of the store. I got away from it. Amazing. It's all true, it's all true.
Well, I have a few questions here from this nice audience who filled out some cards in the lobby, and I'd like to ask you some of those.
Ask away.
Okay. We've got a gentleman here by the name of Jeff Stern. And
Where's he from?
He's from Waltham, Massachusetts, right?
Okay.
Mel, did Sid Caesar really hang you out of a window?
He actually did. We were at the Empire Room. I guess it was the something Park Hotel. And we were playing the Empire Room, and I was writing jokes for him in 1950, it was before 51. And he was smoking cigars, and he's drinking a lot of vodka. And we're up in his suite, and I really can't breathe. The cigar smoke is killing me. And I said, "Sid, I need air. I need air. I need air." He said, "You want?" I must have gotten mad. "You want air?" He went over to the window. Probably these windows at these hotels haven't been open for 12 years. He just with 2 hands, up, it's open. He grabs me by the collar, by my belt. He holds me out the window. "Getting enough air?" I said, taxi cab, turn it up. Lights, yellow lights on Michigan Boulevard. I said, and I don't want to get him crazy. I said, "Oh yeah, very nice." "Oh yeah, I got plenty of air, Thinking he's crazy, he's liable to drop me. So he takes me back inside, and I worked the rest of the night, no complaints. Sid was crazy, maybe the most talented comic that ever lived, but crazy. So he hires a car, and we scrape the fender of a yellow cab on our way to dinner somewhere in Chicago. And the guy with his yellow cap and a little black leather bow tie rolls down the window and says, "You stupid son of a bitch, why did you learn to drive?" I could have told him, you never would say that to Sid Caesar, who's not only the strongest comedian that ever, probably the strongest man that ever lived. Sid, 2-inch waist, 28-inch shoulder. So Sid gets out of the car. I said, no, Sid, we're in Chicago. We don't even know the police there. We don't know what to. He said, I'm just gonna, find out what's the matter. I said, you know what's the matter. Come on, let's go back. So he says to the guy, this is so crazy. This is all true. Sid Caesar says, as the guy approaches, he sees this monster of a man come. So he rolls up his window, but the little clipper, in those days there used to be a little window in the front for air, in the 30s, 40s cars. So that was open, and Sid looked in and said, "Excuse me, I just want to ask you one question." Yeah. Do you remember your birth? Do you remember being born? I know this is trouble. So he says, I know what you're talking about. What are you talking about? He says, can you remember the actual being born, birth? Is there any memory of being born? The guy says, no, what are you, crazy? He says, never mind, we're going to reenact it. He grabs him by the bow tie. He's pulling him out the little. He's actually pulling him through that little window. I had to bite his knuckle. Let him go. That's how crazy Sid Caesar. Giving you all true stories.
Well, now we have a personal question. This comes from Nicole. She gives no last name. Nicole from Boston. And Nicole wants to know, will you marry me?
Where are you sitting? Where are you sitting, Nicole?
Nicole, are you here?
Stand up, turn around. Turn around, let's see. Keep turning. Where is she? Anybody see her? No.
Way up, way up.
What does she look like up there? Tell me. All right. We'll see. Let me think about it. But thanks for the offer. I appreciate it.
And here's another one from Ellen Kaplonsky, from Newton, wants to know, will you come over for dinner?
Ellen, I just proposed. Somebody in the balcony. I don't want to cheat on her so quickly. Thanks for dinner.
Another Newton question from Murray.
People from Newton here.
This one is from Murray Swartz. Insert Swartz joke there. Another personal question. Murray wants to know, boxers or briefs?
Depends. They just reached the day. Thanks, that was a good opening for me.
This question comes from Eric Bartlett. He's from Cape Cod. As a comedian, what is your favorite current joke? Do you have a current joke that is
I have a friend, Stuart Kornfeld, who works for
Stuart Ben Stiller.
Yeah, he works for Ben Stiller. He used to work for me, but he deserted me to work for Ben Stiller. But he's a sweetheart of a guy. And he says, I know you don't like jokes. I said, Stuart, don't tell me jokes. I don't like jokes. He says, can I tell you one joke? I said, Stuart, that's a good joke. Here's the joke, Stuart told me. A guy goes into the public library and he says to the librarian, I want a cheeseburger, French fries, a side of apple pie, and a Coca-Cola. And the librarian says, sir, what's the matter with you? This is a library. And he says, oh, I want a cheeseburger. That was a good joke. I don't like jokes.
This question comes from John Trembler from Pennsylvania, a long way from home. He wants to know, what is your most embarrassing moment in show business?
It's easy.
Oh.
That is so easy. Years ago, there was a game show host. What was his name?
What was the game show?
Yeah, yes,
Oh,
right. Yeah, Bill Cullen he did every show. He did he was a game show. And I was there with a girl called Julia Mead, who was an actress at the time. And we were good on the game, we were funny, did some jokes. And he was sweet as sugar. And every game show he ever did, he was behind this little lectern. He never came out. Say good night, do the questions, he would do hello, goodbye, and good night. Now the show was over. I'd never been there in person, so I had no idea. And so when the show ended, he said, Mel, don't go, Mel, you were so good, you were so fun, Mel, you were so funny, you were so... Now I think he's doing Jerry Lewis, I think, so I'm saying, oh, Bill, and Julia Mead is saying, he had polio as a kid, he's crippled. And I'm saying, oh, Bill. And I said, too late. Anyway, we hugged each other. And he said, you son of a bitch, no one ever had the nerve to make fun of my crazy walk. I love you. I said, I thought I would do that to relieve the tension. The most embarrassing moment of my whole life. It was just a mistake.
Okay, and I have one last question for you. It's similar to what it was before with your mom, but you tell a story about you and your brothers wanting to help your mom move to a better spot in your neighborhood.
When I was only 5 years old, we had a family meeting. The people in the front of 365 South 3rd Street in Williamsburg had moved. Now that was the front of the building, and my mother said, we were paying $16 a month, and that apartment, same setup, 18 because it was in the front of the building. So my mother said, I want that apartment, I want to live there, I want to see the world. Like, I don't want to see cats and wet wash and the backyard, I want to see, the world, the Iceman. The fruit guy, the world. What would that be? The world. A Studebaker would go by. The world. Anyway, Irving, Bernie, Lenny, and we're going to do it, So I ran telephone calls and Bernie and some more, and we chipped in and we moved to the front. We actually moved to the front of 365 South 3rd Street, still on the 5th floor, but in the front. One night, I'm so ashamed to tell you this, but I'm going to tell you. One night, I have to pee. Remember, I'm 5, I gotta pee. I run to the bathroom, it's in the kitchen, near the bathroom. I knock on the door, because it's closed, and I hear from inside, I'm here, I'm in here. I said, Bernie, I gotta go. He said, I'm going. He said, you have to wait. I said, I can't. You have to wait. So I look around. I'm too short to pee in a sink. I can't pee in a sink. There's no bucket. I'm looking around. I'm dying. The front window is open. Heaven. Heaven. So I go to the front window, and in a beautiful arc, I let it all out. I pee, and everything is going fine till I hear, what's going on? I hear tumult and consternation from below. My mother and all her friends are sitting on the front stoop, and they're screaming, Kitty, it's coming from your apartment. And I hear, I jump, I run to the bed, I get under the covers. My mother finally reaches the top floor, angry as anything. Bernie comes out of the bathroom, hi Mom, bang! I think when he was 70 and I was 62, I told him. But anyway, I can't thank you enough. So